What if I told you there's an ancient text that isn't really a book about death, but more of a field guide for it? A map for the soul's journey through the absolutely terrifying, hallucinatory landscape of what comes next. Well, there is. It's called the Bardo, better known as the Tibetan Book of the Dead. Right from the start, it hits you with this profound idea. Learn to die, and thou shalt learn to live. Now, this isn't about some morbid fascination with the end. Not at all. It's actually a challenge, asking us to confront the fact that our lives aren't permanent, so we can live more fully, right now. It's about understanding the very nature of our own consciousness, both in this life and at the moment it transitions. And this is where it gets really wild. The whole text is built around a radical question that just changes everything. What if the afterlife isn't a place you go to? What if it's a hallucination you have to navigate? A crazy, intense projection of your own mind that you have to either master or be completely consumed by. Okay, so how does this whole journey actually unfold? Well, it all kicks off at the precise moment of death. Before any visions, before any kind of judgment, the book says there is one singular, incredibly fleeting opportunity for ultimate freedom. This opportunity is called the clear light of reality. The text describes it as this pure, formless, brilliant void. Basically, the fundamental nature of the universe with all the illusions stripped away. And this is your first and your greatest test. The instructions sound simple, but it's staggeringly difficult. You have to recognize this boundless consciousness not as something out there, but as your own true nature. If you can do that, if you can just merge with it, then the whole cycle of rebirth just ends. Instantly, you've achieved liberation. Game over. But what happens if you miss it? What if a whole lifetime of being attached to your ego, to your body, makes you flinch and pull back from that pure, terrifying brilliance? Well, then you descend into the next phase. It's called the Choniad Bardo, and it's a 49-day odyssey through the deepest, darkest corridors of your own psyche. The whole idea behind this stage is completely mind-bending. The Choniad Bardo is this in-between state where your consciousness is just bombarded with visions of these peaceful and wrathful deities. And you have to get this is the absolute key. They are not external beings. They're not angels and demons from somewhere else. They are projections of your own mind. They are quite literally you. So the journey now becomes a series of choices. On the very first day, a choice appears. You're faced with two paths. One is this brilliant, dazzling, almost unbearable white light of what the text calls mirror-like wisdom. Think of it as pure, unfiltered truth. But at the exact same moment, this other light appears. A soft, dull, seductive white light from the world of the gods. It's comforting. It's an easy path to a lesser rebirth. And the test is, can you find the courage to face the blinding light of truth instead of the cozy warmth of delusion? And this isn't a one-time test. Nope. This pattern just repeats day after day. A new, brilliant light of a specific wisdom, like the wisdom of equality or the wisdom of action, shines out. But it's always paired with a dull, colored light that's trying to tempt you, to pull you toward a different, lower realm of rebirth. A realm of demigods or humans or animals. Each one is like a siren song, pulling you away from real freedom. And then, just when you think you might be getting the hang of it, everything changes. The visions shift. The whole tone darkens. The mind stops looking at its virtues and turns inward on its more primal, chaotic, and terrifying aspects. The wrathful deities emerge. I mean, the sheer horror of this phase is right there in the text. It describes these figures as blood-drinking, who lick up thy brain, drink thy blood, eat thy flesh, and gnaw thy bones. Yeah, these are not gentle spirit guides. They are the monstrous, untamed energies of the universe, and they are erupting from the depths of your own mind. Just when the terror is at its absolute peak, the book delivers its most profound, incredible teaching. These deities are in ourselves. They are not something apart from us. Just think about that for a second. The beautiful, peaceful deities, they were projections of your highest virtues. So what are these terrifying monsters? They are the personified functions of your own brain and your intellect. It's your own power turned back against you. So the challenge, the only way through, is not to run away. Because to run from them is to run from yourself. Liberation comes from the shocking realization that you're just seeing your own consciousness in its raw, unfiltered form. The beautiful and the grotesque, they're just two sides of the exact same coin. Your coin. And this right here is the ultimate secret, the master key to this whole experience. Recognizing the voidness of thine own intellect to be Buddhahood. Now, what that means is realizing that the very source of these horrific visions, your own mind, your intellect, isn't actually evil or flawed. At its core, it's pure, it's enlightened, it's perfect. It is the Buddha nature. If you can just see that, you're free. But what if you fail? What if you flee in terror from both the peaceful and the wrathful projections of yourself? Well, then the winds of your past actions, your karma, they really start to blow. And your consciousness is dragged before the Lord of Death, Yama, for one final, terrifying reckoning. Now listen, this isn't a judgment from some external god on a throne. It's a full-on confrontation with yourself. First, your good genius comes out and lays down white pebbles for every good thing you did, while your evil genius lays down black pebbles for every bad thing. Then, Yama looks into the mirror of karma, where every single act of your life is reflected with perfect, unavoidable clarity. You might try to lie, but it's useless. Your own conscience is the judge here. Then, his furies dismember you. But since you're not physical, you can't die. You just revive, only to be hacked apart again and again in this endless loop of pure mental torture. So, after you pass through that crucible of self-judgment, any hope for a quick liberation is gone. The soul enters the final stage, the Sidba Bardo, the Bardo of becoming. And at this point, you're no longer navigating visions. You are just being driven by the relentless hurricane force winds of your own past karma. In this state, there's no more choice. It's all just compulsion. The soul is pulled completely uncontrollably toward its next life. It's desperately seeking the shelter and the form of a womb. The book describes it as a state of pure panic, confusion, and this overwhelming desire to simply exist in a physical body again. And as it's being pulled along, it starts to see these little flashes, these premonitions of the possible places it could be reborn. Each vision reflects your main karmic energy. So if your life was dominated by pride, you might see these delightful temples made of precious metals. That's a rebirth as a god. A life of jealousy, you'll see circles of fire leading to a demigod birth. Stupidity and ignorance create visions of rock caverns and deep holes, a rebirth as a beast. The sign of a human rebirth, a vision of grand, delightful mansions. But even in this final desperate stage, there's one last act of will possible. The book's final instruction is to recognize these visions for what they are, just karmic illusions. It's a call to use your very last ounce of clarity to reject a lower birth, to consciously slam the door on the womb of a beast or a hungry ghost, and to actively try and find a human birth, because that's seen as the most precious opportunity, really the only realm where the teachings can be fully understood and liberation is actually possible. So when you boil it all down, the Tibetan Book of the Dead isn't really a book about dying. It's a manual for living. It teaches that all of reality, every joy, every terror, everything we experience is a projection of our own mind. And so it leaves us with one final, pretty provocative thought. If you have to learn to navigate the hallucinatory dream of death, how are you choosing to navigate the dream you're in right now?